Sweat stings his eyes. The scoreboard tells a bitter story. David Lee's legs felt like lead as he leaned against the chain-link fence, avoiding the eyes of his teammates. 12 seconds remained on the game clock when Coach Matthews had called the timeout. 12 seconds to erase a 1-point deficit. 12 seconds that would define this championship game and perhaps David's entire high school career. "Lee, get your head in the game," Coach Matthews had barked, drawing up the final play on his whiteboard. "You'll take the last shot." David had nodded, swallowing hard. The weight of everyone's expectations pressed down on his shoulders like an invisible barbell. His jersey, white with blue trim, number 12, was soaked through with sweat, clinging to his slender frame. He was the youngest starter on the team, a sophomore among seniors, the outsider still trying to prove himself. The whistle blew. The inbound pass came cleanly. 8 seconds left. David weaved through defenders, just as they'd practiced countless times. 3 seconds. He was open at the three-point line. 2 seconds. The ball left his fingertips, spinning perfectly. 1 second. The entire gymnasium held its breath. The buzzer sounded. The ball hit the rim, circled once, twice, and fell away. No good. Game over. Championship lost. Now, as David slumped against the fence, he could hear them behind him, his teammates laughing. Not with him, but at him. The youngest player who'd choked when it mattered most. "Hey, Iron Man! Nice brick!" Marcus sneered, using the nickname they'd given David after he'd made 12 straight free throws in practice. The nickname now dripped with sarcasm. "Maybe next time Coach will put in someone who can actually handle pressure." The others joined in, their voices a chorus of mockery. David kept his head down, black hair falling across his eyes, hiding the tears threatening to spill over. His fingers gripped the fence tightly, knuckles turning white against the green metal links. The sound of their laughter seemed to echo across the entire court. Coach Matthews approached, his footsteps heavy on the polished hardwood. "Team meeting in the locker room. 5 minutes," was all he said before walking away, disappointment evident in the slump of his shoulders. David remained frozen, unable to move, unable to face what waited for him in that locker room. His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. "Character isn't built in victory, David. It's forged in defeat." Easy for him to say. His grandfather had never missed the biggest shot of his life. 3 months earlier, David had stood nervously at the entrance to Westridge High School's gymnasium, clutching his basketball shoes. Transfer students rarely made varsity teams, especially not mid-season, but Coach Matthews had seen him play at a community center and extended an invitation to try out. "You're small, but you're quick," Coach had said, eyeing David's 5'9" frame. "And that jump shot of yours is something special." The gym doors swung open to reveal a team of athletic seniors, most towering over David by half a foot or more. Their navy practice jerseys contrasted sharply with David's plain white t-shirt. Outsider status, instantly visible. "Listen up," Coach Matthews called, clapping his hands for attention. "This is David Lee. He's transferring in from Oakland. I've seen him play, and I think he could help us make a run at state. Today I want to see how he fits with you all." Marcus Jefferson, the team captain and star point guard, looked David up and down, skepticism written across his face. "Coach, we're 12-2. Chemistry's perfect right now. No offense," he said, glancing at David. "But bringing in someone new this late in the season." "Chemistry perfect?" Coach raised an eyebrow. "We just lost 2 straight. Perfect chemistry doesn't blow fourth-quarter leads." He tossed a ball to David. "Show them what you can do, son." The scrimmage started rough. David's passes were intercepted, his defensive assignments scored easily, and when he finally got an open look, his shot clanked off the backboard. "That's what I thought," Marcus muttered, just loud enough for David to hear. But then something shifted. David stopped trying to impress and simply played the game he loved. He slipped a no-look pass to the center for an easy dunk. He drew a charge against Marcus. He sank 3 consecutive three-pointers. Coach blew the whistle. "That's enough. David, you're in. You'll be backing up Marcus at point guard, and we'll work on some two-guard sets to get you both on the floor." Marcus's face darkened. "Whatever you say, Coach." As the team dispersed toward the locker room, Coach Matthews handed David a navy blue and white jersey with the number 12 stitched on the back. "Thank you, sir," David said, running his fingers over the numbers. "Don't thank me yet," Coach replied quietly. "Making the team is the easy part." After that first practice, David opened his assigned locker to find a small Bible tucked inside. The leather cover was worn, the pages dog-eared from years of use. A note was paper-clipped to the front. "David, your mother told me about your transfer and basketball tryout. This belonged to your grandfather. He carried it through 2 wars and countless basketball games of his own. He always said the words inside gave him strength when his own failed him. When I cleaned out his apartment, I found this marked for you. It's time it found its way to your hands. Love." Dad. David flipped through the pages, noticing highlighted verses and handwritten notes in the margins. His grandfather had died 3 months ago, the reason for David's mid-year transfer, as his mother moved them back to her hometown to help care for his grandmother. One passage stood out, heavily underlined in Proverbs: "Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall." Next to it, in his grandfather's neat handwriting, "Remember, it's not about being the best player, it's about being the right person." David closed the Bible and placed it carefully in his backpack, unsure what to make of the unexpected gift. The weeks that followed were a blur of practices, games, and isolated moments in a new school. On the court, David's playing time gradually increased as his shooting and playmaking proved valuable to the team. Off the court, the walls between him and his teammates remained firmly in place. "Nice pass," Marcus would say, after David set him up for an easy basket. "Thanks," David would reply, hoping for more, but there was always a distance, an invisible boundary he couldn't seem to cross. The other players had been together for years, sharing inside jokes and weekend plans that never included him. His grandfather's Bible became a strange comfort. Before games, David found himself reading passages his grandfather had marked, feeling a connection to the man he'd lost and the wisdom he'd left behind. Then came the night against Roosevelt High, their bitter crosstown rivals. With 30 seconds left and Westridge down by 4 points, Coach Matthews called timeout. "Lee, you're in for Thompson," he said. "We need your shooting." David's heart hammered as he took the court. The play broke down almost immediately, forcing him to improvise. He pump-faked, drove to the basket, and finished with a finger roll over 2 defenders. On the next possession, he stole the inbound pass and drew a foul on his layup attempt. 2 free throws, down by 2, 12 seconds left. The gymnasium fell silent as David bounced the ball 3 times, took a deep breath, and released his first shot. Perfect. Tied game. He repeated his routine for the second shot. Another perfect swish. Westridge led by 1. Roosevelt's desperation heave at the buzzer missed, and suddenly David found himself at the bottom of a team pile, Marcus's arms slung around his shoulder. "That's what I'm talking about!" Marcus shouted over the crowd's roar. "Ice in your veins, Iron Man." For the first time, the nickname held admiration rather than mockery. In the locker room afterward, Coach Matthews gave David the game ball. "That's why we brought you in," he said simply. David nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. On the bus ride home, Marcus sat beside him. "Look," Marcus said, "I know I've been tough on you. When Coach brought you in, I felt threatened. You're good, man. Really good." Thanks," David replied, surprised by the sudden openness. "Some of us are getting together at my place Saturday. Pizza, video games. You should come." David nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Yeah, I'd like that." That night, he opened his grandfather's Bible and found another marked passage. "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted." The invitation to Marcus's house marked a turning point. Suddenly, David was included in team dinners and study sessions. His phone buzzed with group text messages. The wall between him and his teammates began to crumble. As the season progressed, Westridge kept winning. David's role expanded from sixth man to occasional starter, sharing the backcourt with Marcus in what Coach Matthews called his dynamic duo lineup. They reached the district finals, then regionals, and finally the state championship tournament. Through it all, David kept his grandfather's Bible close, finding new meaning in the marked passages as he navigated his changing world. His mother noticed the difference in him, not just his growing confidence on the court, but a thoughtfulness, a centeredness that reminded her of her father. "You're reading Grandpa's Bible," she observed one evening, finding David at the kitchen table with the worn book open before him. "Yeah," he admitted. "It helps, somehow." She smiled, brushing his hair back from his forehead. "He would be so proud of you, David, not because of basketball, but because of who you're becoming." David nodded, understanding more than he could express. The night before the championship game, Coach Matthews kept the team late for a final film session. "Get some rest," he told them as they filed out. "Tomorrow, we make history." In the parking lot, Marcus pulled David aside. "My dad's coming tomorrow. He hasn't seen me play all season, too busy with his new family in Chicago." His voice held a bitterness David hadn't heard before. "I need to show him. I need this win, man." David nodded, suddenly understanding the intensity that drove Marcus, the need to prove himself that mirrored David's own. "We'll get it done," David promised, "together." That night, David opened his grandfather's Bible one more time and found a passage he hadn't noticed before. "Let nothing be done through selfish ambition or conceit, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem others better than himself." He fell asleep, wondering what his grandfather had been thinking when he marked those words. Championship morning dawned bright and clear. The team bus hummed with nervous energy as they made the 2-hour drive to the State University's arena. David sat alone, earbuds in, visualizing the game ahead. Marcus dropped into the seat beside him. "Coach says you're starting today," he said without preamble. David pulled out an earbud. "What?" "Two-guard lineup from the jump. Says their press will give Thompson trouble." Marcus studied David's face. "You good with that?" "Yeah," David nodded. "We've got this." Marcus held out his fist and David bumped it with his own. A simple gesture that would have seemed impossible 3 months ago. The arena was packed, a sea of navy blue and white on one side, the opposing team's red and gold on the other. During warm-ups, David spotted Marcus scanning the crowd, searching for his father. "He'll be here," David said, passing Marcus the ball. Marcus nodded tightly, but his usual pre-game focus seemed fractured. The game started poorly for Westridge. Their shots wouldn't fall, their defense was a step slow, and by halftime they trailed by 12 points. In the locker room, Coach Matthews remained surprisingly calm. "They're playing their best basketball," he said. "We're not. That changes now." He adjusted their defense, emphasized getting the ball inside, and looked each player in the eye before they retook the court. "Remember why we're here. Remember who we are." The third quarter saw a gradual shift. Westridge's defense tightened, forcing turnovers that led to easy baskets. Marcus found his rhythm, scoring 11 points in the period. David hit a three-pointer at the buzzer to cut the deficit to 4. As the fourth quarter began, David noticed Marcus glancing toward the stands again. Following his gaze, David saw an empty seat in the family section, a program resting on it, but no sign of Marcus's father. Marcus's play became erratic, forced shots, missed defensive assignments, uncharacteristic turnovers. With 3 minutes remaining and Westridge down 6, Coach Matthews called timeout. "Jefferson, what's going on with you?" he demanded. Marcus shook his head, unable or unwilling to answer. David spoke up. "Coach, let me run point for a few possessions. Let Marcus work off the ball." Coach Matthews studied them both, then nodded. 2 minutes. Make it work." The adjustment paid off. With David orchestrating the offense, Marcus found open spaces and his shot returned. Defensively, they forced 3 straight turnovers. With 40 seconds left, Westridge had cut the lead to 1. A defensive stop gave them the ball with 12 seconds remaining. Timeout. The final play. "Lee, you've got the hot hand," coach said, drawing up the play. "We get you open for the last shot." David nodded, not trusting his voice. As they broke the huddle, Marcus grabbed his arm. "He didn't show," Marcus said, his voice tight. David squeezed his teammate's shoulder. "Then we win for us. No one else." The whistle blew. The inbound pass came to David. He weaved through defenders, found his spot beyond the arc, and released the shot. It looked perfect. It felt perfect until it wasn't. The ball hit the rim, circled, and fell away as the buzzer sounded. Game over. Championship lost. David leaned against the fence, the weight of failure crushing down on him. Behind him, he could hear his teammates' voices, some angry, others mocking. Marcus was the loudest, his disappointment finding expression in cruelty. "Nice job, Iron Man. Guess that name was just a joke after all." David pressed his forehead against the cool metal links, eyes closed, trying to block out the words. He'd let them all down. His team, his coach, himself. The final image of that ball spinning off the rim played on endless loop in his mind. "Lee." Coach Matthews' hand landed on his shoulder. "Locker room, 5 minutes." David nodded without turning around. He needed these moments alone, needed to gather the fragments of his shattered confidence before facing everyone. When he finally entered the locker room, the atmosphere was toxic. Players slammed lockers, cursed, or sat in dejected silence. Coach Matthews stood in the center, waiting for the team to assemble. "That's not how any of us wanted this to end," he began, his voice steady. "But I've been coaching for 27 years, and I can tell you this. How you handle defeat says more about you than how you handle victory." David opened his locker, barely listening to Coach's speech. His eyes fell on his grandfather's Bible, tucked beside his street clothes. Almost without thinking, he pulled it out and opened to a passage he'd read the night before. "Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others." His grandfather had written beside it, "This is the hardest when it matters most." "Pride in your effort," Coach was saying as David looked up. "We'll have a team dinner Wednesday night to celebrate the season. Until then, hold your heads high. You accomplished something special here." As the team dispersed, David noticed Marcus sitting alone at the far end of the bench, still in his uniform, staring at his phone. His face was a mask of anger and hurt. David hesitated, then approached him. "Marcus, leave me alone," Marcus snapped, not looking up. "I'm sorry about the shot," David said quietly, "and about your dad." Marcus's head jerked up, eyes flashing. "You don't know anything about my dad." "I know he missed something important today," David replied, "and I know that hurts." Marcus stared at him for a long moment, then looked down at his phone again. He texted, "Flight delayed. Missed connection." His laugh was bitter. "Same excuse as Christmas. Same excuse as my birthday." David sat beside him, unsure what to say, but knowing he shouldn't walk away. "You know what's funny?" Marcus continued, his voice tight. "I told him I was going to win this for him, like somehow that would make him care." He shook his head. "And then I choked in the 4th quarter, and you had to bail me out, and you still took the blame for the loss when I'm the one who—" He broke off, pressing the heels of his hands against his eyes. David opened his grandfather's Bible, finding the passage he'd just read. "My grandfather marked this," he said, offering the book to Marcus. I think maybe it's for moments like this." Marcus stared at the offered Bible, then at David, confusion replacing anger. "Why are you being nice to me right now? I've been awful to you all day. Hell, I've been awful to you most of the season." David considered the question. "Because maybe this isn't about the game anymore," he said finally. "Maybe it's about something more important." Marcus reluctantly took the Bible, glancing at the marked passage. His expression softened slightly as he read. "Your grandfather was religious?" "He was faithful," David replied. "Not perfect, just faithful." Marcus nodded slowly, returning the Bible. "My mom used to take me to church before the divorce. Haven't been since." He was quiet for a moment. "You really believe all that stuff?" "I'm figuring it out," David admitted. "But I believe there's something bigger than this, bigger than basketball, bigger than winning or losing." "Must be nice," Marcus said, but the bitterness had faded from his voice. "To have something like that." Other players were filtering out of the locker room now, some glancing curiously at the two of them sitting together, the star senior and the sophomore who'd missed the final shot. "You want to grab something to eat?" David asked. "My mom's waiting outside. She always brings snacks for the ride home, win or lose." Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, that'd be good." As they stood to leave, Marcus paused. "Hey, about what I said on the court, the Iron Man thing, I was just—" "It's okay," David cut him off. "I get it." "No, it's not okay," Marcus insisted. "You stepped up when I couldn't. You took the shot that I was afraid to take. That's worth something." David nodded, accepting the apology without words. As they walked toward the door, Coach Matthews intercepted them. "Everything all right here?" he asked, looking between them. "Yeah, Coach," Marcus replied. "We're good." Coach nodded, relief evident in his face. "Good, because I meant what I said. This team accomplished something special, and it's not measured by that scoreboard." 3 days later, the team gathered at Salvatore's Pizza for their end-of-season celebration. The initial sting of the loss had faded, replaced by a bittersweet appreciation for their journey. Coach Matthews presented awards, Most Valuable Player to Marcus, Most Improved to Thompson, and to David's surprise, the coach's award to himself, for exemplifying the character and spirit that define Westridge basketball, Coach explained, handing David the small trophy. After dinner, as the team was dispersing, Marcus approached David again. "Can I talk to you for a second?" They stepped outside into the cool evening air. "I went to church with my mom yesterday," Marcus said without preamble. "First time in 7 years." David raised his eyebrows but said nothing. "I kept thinking about what you said in the locker room, about something bigger." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "And about that Bible passage, valuing others above yourself." "Yeah?" "Yeah." Marcus took a deep breath. "Look, I'm not saying I had some big religious experience or anything, but I've been thinking about next year, about college, about who I want to be. And I realized I don't want to be the guy I was this season." David nodded, understanding more than Marcus might realize. "Anyway," Marcus continued, "I talked to the guys. We want to start something new, a team prayer before games next season." He looked at David directly. "We want you to lead it." David stared at him, stunned. "Me? But I'm not even—" "You're the one with the Bible," Marcus said with a small smile, "and you're the one who showed us what it means, when it mattered." Before David could respond, the restaurant door opened, and the rest of the team spilled out, laughing and talking over each other. "What's going on?" David asked as they surrounded him. Thompson grinned. "Captain for next year is what's going on. We took a vote." "But I'm just a sophomore," David protested. "Age doesn't matter," Coach Matthews said, joining the circle. "Leadership does." Marcus clapped a hand on David's shoulder. "So what do you say about the prayer thing?" David looked around at the faces of his teammates. No longer distant figures, but friends, brothers in a journey that had somehow become about more than basketball. "I'd be honored," he said finally, "but only if we do it together." Marcus nodded, a genuine smile spreading across his face. Together. 1 year later, David stood at center court before the state championship game. His teammates gathered around him in a tight circle, hands joined. "Before we start," he said quietly, "I want to remind us all why we're here." He pulled his grandfather's Bible from his warm-up jacket, now even more worn from a season of use. The passage he turned to was familiar to all of them now, words that had become their team motto, printed on the inside of their jerseys where only they could see. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves. David closed the book and looked around the circle, meeting each pair of eyes. Whatever happens today, we play for each other. We play for something bigger than ourselves. Marcus, home from his freshman year of college to watch the game, had joined their circle. Together, he said, the word both a memory and a promise. Together, the team echoed, and as they broke the huddle to take the court, David knew that regardless of the game's outcome, they had already won the victory that mattered most. His grandfather would have understood. Character isn't built in victory, it's forged in defeat. And sometimes, in the crucible of our greatest disappointments, we discover our truest purpose.